Biodiversity is a really important topic. This is because the future of the human species on Earth relies on us maintaining a good level of biodiversity. So what is biodiversity? Well, biodiversity is a variety of different species that live within an ecosystem. The higher the biodiversity is, the healthier an ecosystem is. This is because the more species there are, the more connections and interactions there are. This makes the ecosystem more stable. For example, an ecosystem containing all of these animals will probably be more stable and healthy than an ecosystem with just a couple of them in. This is because a greater range of species protects an ecosystem from a sudden loss of a single species. So let's consider a net versus a single string as a metaphor. So this net represents a food web, and this single string represents a food chain. You can see that the food web or the net looks a lot more complicated than the food chain. If something is removed from the food chain may collapse. However, if something is removed from the food web may still be stable as other options are available, and there's a greater chance that more than one species in the ecosystem can help provide the same resources and conditions. So therefore, more connections in a net mean that cutting a single strand, or single interaction between species, will not affect the whole structure. But if a single string is cut, this can affect the whole thing. The whole thing may fall apart. More species can also mean more beneficial services for both the ecosystem and for humans. For example, bees are great pollinators, and we rely on pollinators to get enough food that we can eat. Herbivores are often used for meat, for example deer, and bears can control herbivore populations if they get too large. Some plants also contain medicines and may produce fruit and other natural resources. For example, aspirin, which is used to treat fever and is used as a pain reliever, comes from the bark of a willow.
Crawl up from the forest floor to the canopy, intertwining with treetops and growing thick wooded stems that support these towering trees. Helped along by the vines, trees provide the seeds, fruits, and leaves to herbivores such as the tapir and the agouti, which disperse their seeds throughout the forest so they can grow. Leftovers are consumed by the millions of insects that decompose and recycle nutrients to create rich soil. The rainforest is a huge system filled with many smaller systems like this, each packed with interconnected species. Every link provides stability to the next, strengthening biodiversity's weave. That weave is further reinforced by the genetic diversity within individual species, which allows them to cope with changes. Species that lack genetic diversity due to isolation or low population numbers are much more vulnerable to fluctuations caused by climate change, disease, or habitat fragmentation. Whenever a species disappears because of its weakened gene pool, a knot is untied and parts of the net disintegrate. So, what if we were to remove one species from the rainforest? Would the system fall apart? Probably not. The volume of species, their genetic diversity, and the complexity of the ecosystems form such rich biodiversity in this forest that one species gap in the weave won't cause it to unravel. The forest can stay resilient and recover
between biotic and abiotic factors in an ecosystem. Let's start with biotic factors. Biotic factors in ecosystems are items that are considered alive, such as this animal or large tree, or as small as this single-cell euglena or bacteria. In order to be considered biotic, it must have these 6 traits. The organism must be able to grow and develop, be made of cells, respond to stimuli, require energy, be able to reproduce, and finally, contain DNA. Abiotic factors are non-living factors in environment. Examples include fire, water, air, ice, sunlight, temperature, and rocks and minerals. In fact, an ecosystem is this interaction between the abiotic and biotic factors in a particular area. Let's take a look at some ecosystems and identify the biotic and abiotic factors. In this ecosystem, the biotic factors are the fish, the trees, and plants. The abiotic factors would include sunlight, sand, clouds, and the water.